Leeps, it's a long word, but what it basically stands for is a learning initiative. It's an initiative that brings together partners in several African countries. It's African-led, it's for Africa, it's trying to find solutions for Africa. And what it aims to do is to bring together partners in the space of evidence and policy. How can we increase or accelerate the use of evidence to make decisions that are both equitable but are also transparent and are relevant locally? Again, as I said, for Africa. So this would be within countries, but also across countries within given regions. So you'll find that within Leeps, we have certain hubs, or Leeps is actually made up of two hubs, an Anglophone hub serving the English-speaking countries, and a Francophone hub serving the French-speaking countries. So it aims to make sure that evidence, and when I say evidence, I'm talking about all kinds of information, data, research, citizens' voices, surveys. Think about anything that could go into making a decision or a policy and helping us to really be able to reach as many populations, as many people that need this as possible. But like I said earlier, it also focuses very much on making sure that these come out as equitable. So gender and all these vulnerable populations are considered, a major issue when it comes to the Leeps initiative. And one may ask, were we not okay without Leeps? Weren't we making decisions? I guess we were, but Leeps comes to fill in quite a few gaps that we noticed. You'll see that the institutions within Leeps, which are more than 10 institutions, have all been working in the space of evidence to policy, evidence to decisions for more than 10 years. And they sat down and thought about the different gaps that still exist even after all of these efforts. And some of the things we noticed is that there is efforts going on to get evidence into policy, but they're fragmented. Everybody's doing something, and yet if we came together, we might actually be able to have greater impact. We also noticed a major gap that there has been a crop of leaders. In fact, many initiatives around evidence to policy have their roots in Africa. But when you look at the crop of leaders that have been there, and then you look right after them, there is a gap. So we really don't have the next generation of evidence-informed policy-making leaders for Africa. And obviously, when there is a vacuum like that, when there is a gap, somebody else will come and take it, okay? We would like this to still be an African-led, evidence-informed policy-making sort of environment. And so Leeps thinks that this is a place that it could also be able to fill. Another thing that these practitioners realized was, again, with the evidence that they're trying to push, a lot of it is adapted or contextualized or borrowed from other settings. We really lack or have a very, a paucity of evidence that speaks to our local needs or that we have generated from our local settings. And that leaves a gap. You could adapt and contextualize from other places. It still leaves a gap when it comes to your own setting. So again, there's a borrowing of or learning, to be able to set an evidence base that speaks to the local and the local needs of African settings. Those are just a few of the gaps that I highlight that Leeps is trying to fill, which we do feel there were not many other people trying to fill these. Now Leeps is a 2-year initiative, and again someone might say, what can you do in 2 years? These are problems that are long-standing, they're deep. What is it that you can do in 2 years? Like I mentioned earlier, the people in this initiative have been in the space for a long time. So they are building on some of the work that they have already done, but also setting structures that many other people can build on even after the 2 years. So the idea is that we will look at the structures that have already been there, some of the work that has already been there. I'll give an example. Leeps directly builds on work done under the Peers project. So Peers, again, was almost the same idea. It had several partners, both African but also Northern. We also had friends from Asia, from Latin America, from the Middle East. All of these were coming together and doing the same thing, trying to make sure that evidence is used in decision making, learning models so that, you know, every partner had a model they had been running, maybe in terms of capacity building, in terms of timely evidence, you know, and there was an exchange of ideas. What have you been doing? I've been doing this. Let me try what you've been doing in my setting. And that set again a foundation on which Leeps has now built. And if we continue to build on each other's work like that, most likely we will be able to attain what it is that we're trying to look for. And the other thing is that Leeps is directly targeting the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. So all of this we are actually doing to try and accelerate our progress to the Sustainable Development Goals. We are already past halfway, the SDGs. We have about, 6-7 years left. And so many of the targets, or so many of us, are a little bit, I don't want to say way, off our targets. And one of the things that probably will be helpful is using what we know, the innovations, the evidence, the research that is out there, to be able to inform decisions that could accelerate towards the Sustainable Development Goals. So when you look through the peers partners, you will see that there is a focus on a certain, Sustainable Development Goal. But there is also special interest on reproductive health and also accelerating our economies to clean energy, use. And so those are also some of the special things that Leeps is actually pushing for. A lot of the capacity building has focused on individuals when it comes to evidence-informed decision making. We want to pay some more attention to institutions. Again, if you pay attention, you will see that within Leeps, the institutions that have started off the work are strategic institutions within strategic countries, because again, we're talking about development, diplomacy, when you come to SDGs. So you will notice that there is a very, very strategic choice in the partners within the Leeps partnerships. We're also looking, like I said earlier, to make sure that there is an evidence base that can speak to local needs. We are making sure there is leadership. A lot of the capacity that we have built, people can do technical work, but they need direction. They need to be able to hold this and take it beyond the people who have shown them. So they need to become leaders if this is to stay sustainable. So building for that is we incorporate in their building leaders. Now leaders will go beyond the technical work that they have done and get into their systems, into their structures, capacities to be able to negotiate at high levels, capacities to be able to advocate. A lot of this evidence needs advocacy as well. Capacities to be able to mobilize resources. We know that all of this work depends on resources being available. Capacity to be able to train others. So the capacities that don't necessarily come with the technical training, there is a big focus on those as well.